Welcome to the Veterans Archives podcast, where we honor our nation's veterans by preserving and sharing their stories. You can also hear Veterans Archives on Wreaths Across America Radio every Thursday at 5 p.m. To learn more about our mission, watch veteran interviews, or find out how to record a veteran story, please visit veteransarchives.org. And if you or a veteran you know needs support or resources, we encourage you to download the Battle Buddy app from vetlifetoday.org. Today is Friday, April 17th, 2026. We're talking with Charles Thomas, who served in the United States Air Force and the Michigan Army National Guard. So good afternoon, Charles.
Good afternoon to you.
It's good to see you again.
Always.
Yeah, all right. So I'm going to start out with the easy questions first. When and where were you born?
I was born in Detroit, Michigan.
Uh-huh.
But left there at age 3 years old and moved out to Willow Run, where they had a bunch of factories of people coming in, working in the bomber plant there from for the service, military service that time.
Okay. What year were you born?
1944.
1944. Okay.
Right.
Wow. And so you're, did you have brothers and sisters growing up?
Yes, I did. I had an older brother and an older sister and two younger brothers.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so you were like right in the middle
Yeah,
there?
I was a middle child.
Yeah? The forgotten one?
Well, I don't know about the one that had to do everything.
Exactly. So tell me a little about mom and dad. How was your family?
Well, I actually was the first of the four kids my mom had, and she had divorced my dad, I think, when I was like 3 years old.
Okay.
And so my mom remarried, and so I was actually raised by my stepfather
Mhm.
in Willow Run.
Okay. And now, did he work at the factory?
No, he worked at University of Michigan Hospital in the lab. He was did a lot of lab work in the lab there.
Okay. And then what about mom?
She worked at the University of Michigan Hospital also, but she was in dietary.
Okay. Now, is that how they met then?
I'm not sure how they met. I never got that story.
Yeah.
I know he was in Eastern Michigan in school, wanted to be a pharmacist. But after he met my mom, he kind of turned that around and dropped out and started raising four kids that she had.
My. That's quite an undertaking.
Yes,
isn't it?
yes, it was.
Yeah, I'll bet. And so, what was it like growing up? What kind of things did you do as a kid?
Well, as a kid, I kind of like gravitated to a lot of the sports, and I played both basketball, baseball, and football. Broke my knee playing football, so I quit that at about 8th grade, and I never went back to football after that. So I stayed with baseball and basketball.
Okay. All right. Any favorite subjects in school?
No, not really. I think I like Spanish a lot, but maybe because I got A's in Spanish. But mainly I just was in college prep when in school, and because I knew I wanted to go to college.
Okay. And so you go through school now. Did you go all the way through school at Willow Run?
Yes, I did. I went all the way through with school, Willow Run, in their public schools, and graduated from Willow Run High. I was, and then at that time we didn't have the money to go to school after that, so I worked in the factories for the next year.
Okay.
To make enough money to try to go to school.
And what'd you do at the factory?
I worked at Ford Rawsonville in their carburetor division, building carburetors for their cars. And I also worked at a foundry in Ypsilanti. There was an iron foundry there that poured a lot of parts for the wheels on the cars and also refrigerator parts.
Okay.
But I worked at both of those at the same time.
Wow.
Yeah. I said, well, the only time I had off was on Saturday and Sunday, and then it was right back to the, both jobs during the week just to make money to go to school.
Yeah. Now, was school something that was important to your family, or was it just something you knew you wanted to do?
Well, it was something I knew I wanted to do, especially after, you work in that factory on that assembly line and you realize that there's no way I can do this for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
And then you get in that iron foundry, and it's hotter than heck in there, and you got soot in the air all the time, and you come out, you're dirty, you're nasty. And I'm like, it's got to be a better life than this. I said, I just can't do these two jobs the rest of my life. And guys had been in there for all their lives.
Right.
But that was something I knew I didn't want to do. So after working in the factories and the foundries, you realize that you better get in school and get something, better than this.
Yeah. So you worked for that year. Did you end up going to school then?
Yeah, after that year I worked, I went to Jackson Community College in Jackson, and I went there for a year. I played basketball there and won a scholarship out of there, full scholarship to Gonzaga University.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. So you went to Gonzaga?
Yeah, I graduated from Gonzaga in the next 3 years, and I played basketball there for the 3 years I was there.
So who do you cheer for during the NCAA tournament? Just curious.
Well, I always cheer for my alma mater, but
Yeah.
Lately the teams haven't been as good as some of the ones in the past, so I never have them going all the way to the finals.
Right.
In my pools.
Now, do you remember that first year that they won? That was amazing.
Yeah, it was. That really was.
Yeah, I'd never heard of Gonzaga before.
No, but they put the team on the map. But I can say when I played there, we had the best record there for years until some of these new teams come up. When I got there, they didn't even have a gym.
Wow.
We practiced in an old dungeon. We played our games downtown at the Coliseum.
Mm-hmm.
So we had 10 home games. All the rest of them were on the road. But my first year there, we went 18-8. Second year there, we went 19-6. And in my last year there, we went 21-5.
Wow.
We couldn't get in the tournament.
Wow. That's a pretty good record for not being able to get in the tournament.
Right. Well, there was only 32 teams in the tournament at that time, not
Right.
64 like they are now.
Wow, that's just amazing. I've never met anyone that went to Gonzaga, let alone played ball there. That's incredible. You kind of blazed the trail for these young guys coming in.
Yeah, you could say that, but
Yeah.
they were a lot better than me coming in now.
Yeah. Probably make a little bit more money too, I would think.
Yes, they do.
Yeah. So what did you study in school?
In Gonzaga, I studied medical technology.
Uh-huh.
Clinical lab specialist was what I was coming out of school at Gonzaga.
Okay.
I was a certified ASCPT tech.
Kind of following in your stepdad's footsteps a little bit?
Yeah,
Or?
kind of like that. But he was, like I said, he worked in the microbiology, fair and media, and for culture media. My job was running all the tests that the doctors ordered for different chemistries and hematology, and learning how to do all that.
That doesn't sound like an easy degree to get.
Well,
That's a lot. That sounds like a lot of work.
well, it is. It's kind of, and then you have a 12-month internship after you finish school. You have to do an internship in the lab, and then you have to sit for a national board exam for that after you're done.
Now, where'd you do your internship at?
Right there in Spokane, where Gonzaga is, at St. Mary's Hospital.
Okay.
I was there for 12 months
Mm-hmm.
before I left there and went to the service.
Yeah. So you graduated. You got your degree. Did you passed your state boards? I
Yeah.
assume, or your national
Boards, right?
Yeah. And then you decided, I'm going to go join the Air Force.
Well, not quite. This was the height of Vietnam.
Right.
And in 1968, I graduated in 68,
Mm-hmm.
and Uncle Sam sent me a letter saying, come and take a physical. I went like, okay. As soon as I got at that time you had 2 deferments. And once you graduated, you went to the top of the list.
Yeah.
And so I went, my father-in-law, I was married my last year of school.
Okay. So let's back up just a second. So you met your wife at school then?
Yes. Well, she was at Eastern Michigan University.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I correct. Eastern Washington.
Eastern Washington. I was going to say, how?
Yeah, Eastern Washington.
Okay.
Which is about 16 miles from Gonzaga.
Yeah. How'd you meet?
It's really funny. I saw her at the top of the bleachers, sitting in the stands at one of our games, and my roommate didn't know who she was, and I didn't know who she was. And I said, well, maybe she's coming to the party after the game, and she did.
Uh-huh.
And that's how we met at the party.
Wow. So that's as close to love at first sight as you can get, I think.
Well, love from long distance because she was way at the top of the bleachers.
Right. You could have made a horrible mistake. She was so far away, right?
Yeah.
Well, that's great. So she was at the party and you just kind of hit it off?
Yeah. And I asked her for a date, and had to go on the road for the next 2 weeks, so I didn't see her.
Oh, no.
So she thought I'd forgotten about her, but I didn't. And we got together, and so she started coming to my games regularly.
Mm-hmm.
And little did I realize that her dad was in the Air Force.
Oh.
And so she was an Air Force brat,
Mm-hmm.
and she'd been in there. And so I kind of like, talking to them, and we're like, I thought, if I'm going to go to service, I'd probably like to go to the Air Force,
Right.
And so I went down and after graduation and enlisted in the Air Force. The degree I had was a direct commission degree, but I knew I was going to be getting close to the draft, so I couldn't wait around and apply for a direct commission. So I just went and enlisted to start off with right away.
Yeah. So what was your job in the Air Force?
Well, when I got in the Air Force, I asked them, you have to take all these different tests in the Air Force to qualify you for the different jobs. And I scored high enough in all of them that I could have picked whichever one I wanted. And I said, well, I want the one I studied in, was clinical lab. And so they said, well, that's a long program. We have 2 phases. But we have a test that you can take for the first phase. If you pass that test, you bypass that phase, which is a 3-month phase. And then the next one is a 9-month phase, which is clinical on-the-job training. And I'm like, I just did 12 months of that.
Right.
Well, you got to learn how to do it the Air Force way. So I took the test, bypassed the first phase, and I said, well, give me the test for the second phase. We don't have a test.
You got to do it.
You got to do it. So I was stuck on going to phase 2 training at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base in 1969 for my second phase of training.
Now, where did you go for basic training?
Basic training, I went to Lackland Air Force Base, where all the Air Force people go for basic training.
Yeah, that's like the only place they've ever had it, isn't it?
Yep, that's the only place
I
they
think
got.
every Air Force person says, yeah, okay. Because the Army, I mean, there was 100 places you could go to basic, but the Air Force was not.
Air Force has one.
What was basic training like for you? Because you're a little bit older, right, than a lot of the guys that went there. Is it because of the draft? There were a lot of people your age.
Well, I think I was like 20, 22, 23 when I went to basic training. But to me, basic training wasn't hard as it was getting in shape for basketball. I mean, when we played basketball at Gonzaga, I thought the coach was crazy. I mean, we did 4 miles a day, 8 miles on Wednesday, and then we did sprints, and then we'd hit the weight room. I went from 215 pounds down to 199 pounds in 2 weeks.
Whew.
Yeah, it was tough. So when I got to basic training, I went like the calisthenics, and they were doing, that was a piece of cake.
You didn't tell anybody that, did you?
No, I didn't. I just kept my mouth shut and said, hey, it's a good way to keep shaking.
Right. Yeah, so basic training, not a problem then at all. And then you went, did you go right from there to Wright-Pat then for your?
After basic training, you have to sit into what they call a PAT status, which is a hold status for about 2 or 3 weeks before you go to your school that you're going to be training for. And so I was at Fairchild Air Force Base there for 2 weeks before I went to Wright-Patterson.
Okay. And this whole time your wife is back home in Washington then?
No, she was in Washington because her parents lived there.
Right.
So she was there with them while I was in basic and while I was in PAT status. And I didn't see her until I was getting my assignment at Wright-Patterson for my 9-month training.
Okay. And could she accompany you then for that training?
Yeah, for the 9 months?
Yeah.
Yes, she came with me when we went to Wright-Patterson.
Okay. Well, and she's an Air Force brat, so she's probably pretty used to that whole thing, right?
Right.
She'd probably teach you a few things.
Well, she was used to moving around, so
Yeah.
it was pretty easy for her. And plus, she had a job with at that time it was the Bell telephone system,
Mm-hmm.
and there was only one system in the country,
Right.
and so she could transfer her job to wherever we were.
That's perfect.
So she did. She transferred down to, well, once we got to, after we left to Wright-Patterson, she transferred there. And then we transferred back to my next station.
So where did you go after Wright-Patterson?
After Wright-Patterson, I had an assignment to Minot, North Dakota. And you don't know where you're going to go. And I was well, I'll go anywhere except Minot. I got the assignment of Minot, and I went like, oh, why not Minot? That's what everybody said anyway.
Well, it's like they know where you don't want to go.
Right.
That's what I think.
I think so.
Yeah.
But it was lucky for me, her dad was a high-ranking sergeant who knew the sergeant who did the airman assignments.
Uh-huh.
And he said, well, you want to come out here to Washington with me? I'm like, yeah. And so he got my assignment changed, and I went back to Washington, right where I went to school at.
Oh, that's great.
So I went, because Fairchild is right there in Spokane, Washington.
Uh-huh. And they have medical services there and all
Yeah,
that,
they have a
right?
hospital there, and so that's where I was there for the next 4 years.
Okay. Now, did you do another enlistment, or did you just get out after your 4 years?
Well, no, after 4 years, I was planning on getting out and going back to school, work on a master's.
Mm-hmm.
And then I saw this program on the board of physician assistants. I went like, and I looked at the qualifications. And I went like, I got all these qualifications. It was a brand new thing, but I'd never seen a physician assistant.
Mm-hmm.
And so I applied for it, and I got it for their school. I think I've been one of the first ones in their school, or second ones, because they had already started one class graduate. But then another program came up on the board for, if you have your degree already, you can apply to go to OCS. And I'm like, I'll apply for that too.
Yeah.
Applied for it, and I got it. But then they said, you can't have them both because one is officers and one is still enlisted.
Uh-huh.
At that time, the PAs were still enlisted.
Oh.
And so, so this was in 1973.
Mm-hmm.
So I said, well, if I'm going to stay in, I'll go as an officer. So I said, well, you can have your PA slot back. I'm going to go to the officer school. So I went to OCS.
Uh-huh.
And,
How was that for you?
OCS, okay, it was, like I said, you do a bunch of calisthenics and all that stuff, which that didn't bother me anyway, because I was used to doing all that stuff and running and whatnot. But you have a lot of classes and teaching you how to be a leader.
Yeah.
So that wasn't too bad. And each of the squadrons have a sports team that plays different sports there, and they compete against the other ones.
Mm-hmm.
So the the officer that was in charge of us, he knew that I played basketball, so he put me on his team in there, and he says, "You run this team."
Of course he did.
So we won that. We won that division.
Uh-huh. And then how long was officer candidate school? Do you recall?
Officer candidate school was 3 months.
Okay. And then you graduated. Now you're a second lieutenant? Is that how they do it?
Yeah,
in the
you
Air
come
Force?
out as a second lieutenant.
Yeah.
When you graduate out of that school. The only thing was, mine was a little different because they assigned me right in the field where I was trained at, clinical lab officer. So I was going to be running the lab. And I met the first sergeant there at the hospital, and he says, "Did you come in as a direct commission?" I'm like, "No, I came out of OCS." He said, "Well, this is a direct commission spot." And he says, "You need to call records and say that you already had this degree and you shouldn't be a second lieutenant." So I applied. I sent it off to correctional records, and they says, "You're right. You shouldn't be a second lieutenant. You're hereby promoted to a first lieutenant And we backdate your rank all the way back to when you graduated out of college.
Wow.
And in 1 month, you'll be a captain.
Wow. That first sergeant took care of you.
Yes, he did.
That's great.
So I went from second lieutenant to first lieutenant to a captain in like less than 9 months.
Your father-in-law must have been pretty impressed.
Well, he was always he was kind of hard. I mean, he was, well, you got to do this right, and you got to do that, and so I couldn't make many mistakes with him.
Yeah.
But the fact that he wanted me to come out there was mainly twofold. One, he gets to see his daughter again. Two, we had 2 kids at that time too, which were born at Wright-Patterson, and so he get to see his grandsons.
Uh-huh.
So
you have 2 sons then?
Yeah, identical twins.
Oh my gosh. That's busy.
Yeah.
2 boys is busy.
Yeah. Yeah. It kept me going.
Yeah. Probably a good thing you were out in Washington then.
Yeah. Yeah, because they had the grandparents there with them, and they enjoyed it. They used to ride in the base with me every day. I'd drop them off at the base nursery and go over and work, and then pick them up after work. But then I had to go over to the gym because I was also coaching the base basketball team.
Uh-huh.
And so I'd sit them up in the gym. They were still in bassinets. Practice with the base team and then carry them home. They basically grew up in the gym.
Yeah. Did the team really kind of adopt them as part of the team?
Well, they one of the teams had one of the players had a daughter, and she's an older daughter, and she used to watch them while we were out practicing.
Oh.
And then they started walking and growing and climbing the bleachers, and they got out of the bassinets.
So you kind of got to watch that all happen, even though you were still kind of working. Yeah.
Right.
Well, that's really cool.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, but like I said, the only the long days we had was doing NAM. We did a lot of sending a lot of blood over there to Vietnam.
Yeah.
We I think it seemed like every other month we had a blood drive to send blood over to Vietnam. And being in the lab, I had to process most of that and draw a lot of those units that we sent over to them.
And they all had to be tested, right, before you could send them?
We had to test them all and label them and everything and pack them up and ship them over.
That job made a difference, those guys in Vietnam, for sure.
Yeah, yes, it did.
Yeah. You can see kind of the direct result.
Right.
Now, how long were you there then?
I was at Fairchild for 4 years.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sorry. Yeah, Fairchild 4 years, and then when I got my assignment out of OCS, I was at Fairchild Air Force Base for 4 years.
Okay.
And I was the OIC at the lab there. And then they came down and says, well, your hospital's big enough. We want to set up a phase 2 lab training for new techs coming in. You're going to be the lead instructor.
What a deal.
I went like, okay, I've never had to instruct this. Well, we're going to send you to school to teach you how to instruct the Air Force way.
Right.
And so I had to go to a school, teach how to instruct the Air Force, how they instructed students. And so I was the OIC of phase 2 clinical laboratories.
Well, and you had to do basically 2 internships, so you kind of knew what was going on, right?
Right.
Yeah.
But teaching was a little different thing, especially. But they always tell you, you put on the board, you tell them what you're going to tell them, teach them what you told them, and then tell them what you told them again.
Right.
That was their way.
Yeah.
It was successful too, because we graduated students out of there.
Yeah. So you enjoyed that assignment?
Yes, I did. And then NAM ended, and they said, well, we got too many officers. Some of you guys have to leave. So my class had to, after their 4 years of commissioned service, had to get out. So they would have room for other people coming up. And it wasn't your choice that, well, I want to stay. No, we're done. You're done.
Yeah. You have how many years by now?
8.
Okay. Yeah.
8.5.
Yeah, that's a long time.
Right. So 8.5 years, and I was like, okay, I'll go back into your PA program. Well, you can't do that unless you resign your commission and go back to your enlisted grade. I'm like, you're kidding. No, that's the only way you can apply. I'm like, I'm not going to do that.
Yeah.
So I started applying for civilian schools when I knew I was getting out.
Okay.
And I got accepted at Mercy College of Detroit for their PA program. But I had to wait a year because I just missed their cutoff date to get into the next class.
So what'd you do for that year in between?
I worked at Sparrow Hospital here in Lansing in the lab.
Now, did you come back to Michigan because your family was here?
Well, I came back to Michigan because being from Michigan, it was easier they only had 2 PA programs, one at Mercy in Detroit and one at Western Michigan.
Okay.
I applied for both of them. And I moved to Lansing because it was kind of like in the middle. I didn't know anyone in Lansing except one guy I went to high school with, and we grew up together. And he went to Western. He graduated from Western and was teaching here. So I just got in the middle, and I got accepted at Mercy. Went to Mercy, but I had relatives down there, and I had relatives in Ann Arbor and Flint. So you have to move around to do your training.
Now, did your wife come with you to Michigan?
Yeah. She said she was there with me at Barksdale, and then she came back up here and moved her job from Michigan Bell up to Michigan Bell here.
Yeah.
And then everything split. All the phone companies started coming up and popping up and said, Bell is a monopoly. You cannot have a monopoly. And so they broke up all the phone companies.
Right.
So, but she still worked here, one here.
Okay. And so talk to me a little about PA school. And so how old are your boys now?
They're 56.
Okay. Well, so how old were they when you were going to PA school?
They were, they were like 4th graders.
So they were still
they were
little guys.
Yeah, they were 4th graders.
They go to school in Lansing?
Yes. They went to one of the elementary schools. I think of the elementary school now, but then they ended up going to high school at Everett High School. And then they were basketball players. Matter of fact, they were better basketball players than me. They ended up being professional basketball players.
Really?
One played with the Detroit Pistons and one with the Cleveland Cavaliers. Both of them made the NBA, the third set of twins ever in the NBA.
So what are their names?
Charles and Carl.
Okay.
Thomas. They were known as the Thomas twins. And if you go around Lansing, there's very few people doing that, don't remember them because they were the big shots in basketball during that time.
Yeah.
They graduated in 87. So anybody around that time would know them. And then they went on to Eastern Michigan University. Got scholarships there to play at Eastern Michigan. And then they went to the NCAA in their freshman year, and then they went to NCAA tournament in their senior year. And they were the only Michigan team in the Sweet 16 at that time.
That's exciting. It really is.
I went to every game. I needed time off to go to their games. So, followed them all over.
Yeah. Well, Everett's a good basketball school. I mean, Irvin Johnson came from Everett, and yeah, I graduated in '83, so they were a little bit after me.
Right.
But yeah, so you've got 2 young boys. You're going to PA school. It seems like you're pretty busy then.
Yeah, I was, but after spending almost 9 years in active duty, I didn't want to let 9 years go with nothing.
Yeah.
And so I applied to join the Army National Guard. And it was 4 years now since I'd been out of the service. But even though you're out of the service, if you have a president's commission, that commission still goes on. You just go into what they call the reserve, but you never lose that commission unless you resign it. Well, when you join the National Guard, PAs in the National Guard weren't officers. They were warrant officers. And so I had to resign my commission as a captain to take the warrant officer's appointment, because it's an appointment.
Yeah.
So I took the appointment, and I stayed, and they appointed me as a CW2, and I promoted to a CW3. And just before I was getting promoted to a C4, they came down and says, "We're going to commission all the warrant officers."
Gee, thanks.
So this was like, what, 79.
Uh-huh.
And so they commissioned all the warrant officers. Now, I says, well, maybe I'll get my captains back, and I should be able to make majors since I've been in. Well, no, we're going to get you a captain back. And so I got commissioned as a captain again, a major.
Mm-hmm.
And, but I was in the 119th Field Artillery here in Lansing.
Yeah.
For 13 years. And our training during the summer was up at Grayland.
Mm-hmm.
But through the years, there was nights in Grayland got cold. And it was just eating me up being out in that field in that cold weather. And I went like, okay, I got to find another unit that's not out here in the field like this.
Some places back in the office.
All right.
Yeah.
So I switched I think it was like 99. I went to Forward Support Battalion in Detroit.
Mm-hmm.
Well, little did I know the Forward Support Battalion still went out in the field. The wrong unit.
Yeah.
So after a year, I changed over to what they call the State Med Command.
Mm-hmm.
And the State Med Command, which did all the physicals and for people getting shipped out to going overseas and getting activated, and then we gave them physicals when they came back, and so we basically did that for the state, and that's what I did when I went over to State Med Command in 97. And in 97, I went from major, and then I got promoted in 01 to lieutenant colonel.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like the first PA in Michigan to become a lieutenant colonel. But now I'm getting old. I was approaching my mandatory retirement date.
Yeah.
Age 60.
Yeah.
So at age 60, I retired.
Now, did you work full time for the Guard then?
No, just the weekend.
Yeah.
We call them weekend warriors.
Yep.
So I was a weekend warrior, and then we do your 2-week summer camp up in Grayland.
Mm-hmm. And so so you were a PA on the civilian side then
I was
as
a PA
well?
on the civilian side, and I was a PA in the Army National Guard.
So you had like dual careers
Yes,
all the way up through there.
but as a PA in the civilian side, I worked for Michigan State Surgery Department,
Uh-huh.
and I did that for 32 years. Michigan State, and I worked in general surgery, orthopedic surgery, and then another 29 years in plastic and reconstructive trauma surgery.
Let's take a quick break.
Before we continue, we'd like to share a resource that may be helpful to veterans and their families. The Battle Buddy app from vetlifetoday.org is designed to connect veterans with support, resources, and a community that understands their experiences. If you or a veteran you know could benefit from those resources, we encourage you to download the Battle Buddy app and learn more at vetlifetoday.org. That's quite a legacy.
No, but I in the Guard, the biggest thing you did was you take care of the troops. But then I had at that time he was Major Bad Nays. He's now General Bad Nays.
I know General Bad Nays.
His son, he had his son up at camp one time.
Mm-hmm.
His son got sick. He brought him over to see me. He says, "What do you think is going on?" And I checked him out. I says, "Appendicitis." He get him back home. So we had to get him out of there, because he was up in Grayland with us at that time.
Oh, yeah.
came back and got an operation.
Yeah, probably saved his life.
Yeah. So, but that name was, yeah, he was very good. Yeah, he was the one that recommended me to be promoted to lieutenant colonel when I was, I got his recommendation.
Wow, that's incredible. So quite a career, quite a successful family. I mean, your sons. So what do your sons do now?
They're both coaching basketball. One's a head coach at Cleary University in Howell.
Yeah.
So they had no program at Howell. And the AD there called him and said, would you start a program for me? Now, she was the AD when he was at Jackson College coaching there. And he was there for 4 years. At the same time, he was working at a high school as a counselor. And he said, well, he left Jackson, went to Duquesne University with his brother, who was at Duquesne University, assistant coaching there. And then he left Duquesne and came back to Michigan to start the Cleary program. The one was at Duquesne, ended up going to St. Louis University, and then to Little Rock University, Little Rock, Arkansas, to coach there. And so both of them are coaching right now there. And now the one in Little Rock is getting ready. He's trying to go up to Utah now to try to coach there. He's still looking for that head coach position, but I'm like,
oh yeah,
you're getting kind of old, guy, man. they're not getting guys your age to head coach spots.
It's funny that 56 is old.
Yeah, it is.
But I guess in sports, that's how it works.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely. And then are you still married?
Yeah.
Okay.
I've been married 58 years.
Congratulations.
Right. Same woman, 58 years.
Wow.
And I just had a bunch of grandsons.
Yeah.
My sons had sons. And for some reason, we don't have girls in our family.
Wow. So how many grandsons do you have then?
One's got 2. And the other one's got 6.
8 grandsons altogether then?
Yeah.
Oh my. I bet the holidays are a lot of fun.
Yeah. Well, like I said, they're all older now. I think the youngest one is 13. All of them are older, and they come over. And I think the biggest day, I started a cookie bake because I used to make them Christmas cookies every year. And then we're like, dude, I'm getting old. I need somebody to take over this job.
It's time to pass the torch.
And so they said, well, we'll all come over and help you. They all showed up, and we had a blast making cookies. I said, I'll do this again next year, Papa. I was like, okay.
Yeah.
I made them all. One of my hobbies is sewing. And so I made them all aprons so they could, wouldn't get cookie stuff all over them. And every apron was a theme, had a different theme on it. What they do. Like one grandson he doesn't want to get up. He's slow. His apron had a bunch of snails all on it.
This is something they'll probably never forget, though,
Yeah, right. And then the next year, they came over this last year, and I made them all chef hats.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Were those themed as well?
No, the chef hats were in, but they all had assistant chef on there.
Oh, okay.
Mine said chief chef.
Because you're still in charge.
Right. Mine said the chief or master chef.
Yeah.
So they said, we got to do this again. But I'm like, dude, you guys you got girlfriends now. You're thinking about getting married, If your wife lets you come over next year when you're married, if you're married, you can come.
Nice. Well, so that's incredible. Like what a legacy is. You have an incredible family. You have done all sorts of things, and I'm sure in your field of work, you have helped countless people, probably people you didn't even know that you helped. But is there any part of that career that like really stands out that you're really proud of? I don't like to use that word, but is there a part of that like really sticks in your memory?
Well, the biggest thing is my civilian job that sticks more than my military job, because it wasn't really exciting. But the biggest thing, military, was the blood drives we did for the Vietnam vet people. but civilian job, I did a lot of breast cancer reconstruction. So and I was in charge of measuring and following these women with the reconstructive job. Surgeon did the reconstruction, but then I was the one who did all the ordering the implants and ordering the expanders and whatnot to get them. And then, so a lot of them were really appreciative of having someone that is the same person there all the time doing their reconstruction.
Well, that's life-changing, too, for them.
Yes, it is.
Yeah. So we've talked about a lot of things. Before we wrap up, though, is there anything that we haven't talked about that you did want to talk about? Because sometimes I don't ask the right questions. So I just wanted to make sure that we captured everything.
Well, I think we have. Like I said, the biggest part of it is the success that my sons went through. And in my high school, I was put on the Hall of Fame. They had a Hall of Fame there. In college, my junior college put me on the Hall of Fame there. Well, my sons had to outdo me there. They were put in the Lansing Sports Hall of Fame. They were just put in their high school Hall of Fame. They were named but at their college, they call the Ring of Honor. They're named in the stadium, around the ring of the stadium, Ring of Honor. So they we surpassed you. I went like, yeah, you were supposed to.
Right. That's how that's supposed to work.
That's how it's supposed to work.
Yeah.
So that was really proud moment there.
Yeah, I can only imagine. And then, of course, their sons will have to outdo them. So,
well, I don't know if their sons will, because they are not as energetic and enthusiastic as my boys were, because they wanted to play everything, and I'm like, you can't play everything. But they gravitated to basketball. I don't know. I'm not sure why they did, but probably because their mother's dad was a professional basketball player. He was a Harlem Globetrotter.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh.
He was player and coach of the Harlem Globetrotters from Indiana, Fort Wayne, Indiana.
Yeah.
That's where she's from. But
wow. How could your boys not be successful?
Right. And one of them was a tremendous shooter, and he took after his. I said, "You got that from your grandfather," because I was a banger. Since he was the shooter. Since you didn't get that from me.
Wow, incredible. Well, there's just one other question I have to ask them before we go, and that is, if someone is listening to this 100 years from now, what message would you like to leave for people? About how you lived your life and where you're at today.
Well, I would just say is that if you want something, you have to go after it. You have to be in charge of your life and continue to challenge yourself to do it. Because it won't come to you just sitting there.
All right. Well, thanks for sharing that. Thanks for taking time out of your day to talk with me. This has just been incredible.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Thank you for listening to the Veterans Archives podcast and for helping us honor the service and sacrifice of our nation's veterans. If you enjoyed this episode, please consider sharing it with others so more people can hear these important stories. To learn more about our mission, watch additional veteran interviews, or find out how to record a veteran story, please visit veteransarchives.org. And if you or a veteran you know needs support or resources, we encourage you to download the Battle Buddy app from vetlifetoday.org. You can also hear Veterans Archives on Wreaths Across America Radio every Thursday at 5 p.m.